Hey guys, in this video I'm setting out to make a pretty big planter made out of 5 pounds of bee mix. So here I'm just trying to get it centered on the wheel, um, and you can see that I'm having a little bit of trouble, but I am here to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you will see that in the end I turned out to make like a small bowl. But this was the process. I was working on trying to get my height and pulling up tall walls. So, yeah, so here I'm just coning the clay up and down to center it, but also to like even out the clay so it's not like lumpy and uneven. And that's kind of like I go by feel with that. But it started out a little wobbly, and then I kind of get control of it. And then I'll show you, my throwing process. So I'm really scooping the clay from the very bottom, like I'm using both of my palms to really push kind of in and upward, bringing the clay up. And then I'm using sort of an angle as I'm pushing it down. And I try to go kind of slow, and I even like pause a little bit at the bottom, like right there, just to like not go so fast, because if you go slow, the clay has time to like compress into itself and even out. Like that's what you want. You'll know when you feel it. But obviously this is the most important part, because if it's not centered and if it's not like smooth and not lumpy feeling, then the piece just won't come out centered at all. But I will say that a lot of my clients that I've given pottery to or have sold pottery, they really love the wonky pots. I gotta say, like, I'm fascinated by it because I'm the maker, so I know what's wonky and what isn't. But there is something to be said for wonky pots. People love them. Okay, back to the pot. So I just drilled in down the center with my 2 thumbs, nice and steady and even pressure, to drill the hole right to, after a while you can feel, I like to leave about a 1/4 inch at the bottom. It depends on what I'm throwing, but I didn't intend on putting a foot on this really because it was going to be a planter. So now I'm just kind of using my thumb to compress the bottom really well so I don't get cracks and so everything's nice and smooth and even. So that's what I'm doing here before I start to take my 2 thumbs and pull the walls out, but I really pull from the base, like the bottom of the pot. It's almost like I'm pushing down and pulling out. That's how I do it. Everybody like does things differently, but this is how I do it with my 2 thumbs, and then I take my needle tool to just measure the thickness of the bottom, which was fine. And then I usually go in and just compress the bottom one last time to get rid of the hole I just made with the needle tool. Okay, so now I'm just kind of compressing the rim down before I start pulling the walls, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm bringing the clay up gently and slowly, like that first pull. It's so hard to explain, but I'm like, I've got both hands, one on the inside, one on the outside, and they basically communicate with each other in pulling up. So, I have to say that I find it very helpful to close my eyes when I'm pulling. I know it sounds crazy, but it really helps me feel like what I'm doing and get out of my head, because sometimes our mind is so noisy, at least for me. And so honestly, like sometimes I literally just close my eyes and feel my way through pottery, like all of it. And it helps so much because it directs all my attention, like all my senses, to that area. Okay, so enough about that. So here I am, I pulled some walls up, and this is where things get interesting. So I clearly have a thin spot there, and I threw the pot off center. And I want to laugh because it's probably because I had my eyes closed. But no, seriously though, that really does help me. But I don't know, it happens. So it's getting wonky. It's getting like, it looks like it's gonna not go so well. So I'm just continuing to go, and I'm trying to recenter it, because sometimes sometimes I can get it back on track, and it might not be perfect, but it's, salvageable. So that's what I'm doing here. So what happened here is it's thin at the bottom. There's like a thin spot, and the top is heavy. It's top heavy. I can see now that I'm watching my own, record video, which is kind of helpful, honestly, to rewatch. But that red tool, the rubber rib tool, that thing's amazing. Like so many times that saves me, and I can push things back in, and this one just wasn't going to happen. But that thing is amazing, and it does help a lot with trying to push it back kind of in and smooth things out. But clearly it just wasn't happening here. So this is where I'm going to go and save it, and so I can make something out of it. So I'm just going to cut the top off in a second with my needle tool. So as soon as I take that off, I go right for the rim immediately to stabilize it, to compress the rim down, and to just kind of stabilize the piece and continue on. And I'm going back to the bottom to just kind of recompress and like rework it a little bit. There's some extra clay at the bottom. I wonder if any of you experience this, where like there's like extra clay down there. So like, halfway through throwing, you almost expand the bottom. Like, I'm pushing more clay out from the center at the bottom, like using that extra clay and then pulling it up. So yeah, probably because I didn't pull it up enough in the beginning. So I just wonder if that ever happens with anyone. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing in this next clip. Also, guys, I have a question. So, for any of you who use B-Mix, I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, but like my B-Mix is always so hard. Like, and I wedge it out of the bag, but it's just such a hard, like clay, like until it's like wet, it's malleable, but like it's hard. But I was told by somebody, another potter, that like they sell soft B-Mix and hard B-Mix. Is that true? And like, where do you like, do you tell your ceramic supplier that? Like, I've never heard of that, but I guess they sell that in California because that's where she's from, and she said like you have to ask for it. So, just curious if anybody has any experience with soft B-Mix. So now I'm just trimming it. I'm trying to trim as much as I can now because I've kind of had it with this whole bowl. So it probably won't have a bottom because it was a little wonky. So I'm trying to just like clean it up now as much as I can and trim as much as I can, kind of shape it, the foot now. I mean, I'll still trim a little bit, but the gist of it, I'm doing that right now. And also shaping with my handy dandy rubber red rib that I love. So I'm kind of just shaping it up a little bit and getting off all the sludge, the slurry, just kind of drying it up a bit and just, tidying it up. So there you have it. There's a kind of a wonky bowl, not terribly wonky, but who says that, imperfection isn't beautiful? Like I said, a lot of people seem to love the wonky pots. They like the artsy look to it. But, there's a Japanese saying called wabi sabi. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it, but it's basically seeing the beauty in everything. So I always keep that in mind because if you're like me, we're a little hard on ourselves at times, which is silly, especially when we're doing art. That's supposed to be a time of letting go and creativity. So let's just stop trying to be so perfect. Anyway, that's it, guys. I just wanted to show you everything and what I've been working on, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.